Hello, today I'll be analyzing the unique style of Rembrandt Van Rijn in his portrait work, evaluating its historical significance, and examining how it has influenced future portraiture. But first, we need to look at the time period that his art was a part of, as like all other artists, it directly influenced his work. Following the High Renaissance, a new art style began to emerge with the dawn of the 17th century, which adhered to some typical conventions of the time, yet still greatly expanded upon them and brought new innovations to the art world. This style, known as Baroque, originated in Italy but quickly spread throughout the rest of Europe. Though many Baroque pieces were religious and satisfied the Catholic Church's desire for decorative and grandiose art, the style was still very popular in Protestant countries such as England and the United Provinces of the Netherlands. In fact, the style came to be highly associated with the Dutch Golden Age, which began with the establishment of the Calvinist Republic in 1588 as a result of a united revolt against Habsburg rule in the region. Following their independence during the 80 Years' War, there was a new sense of national pride in the fledgling republic, accompanied by the rise of a strong middle class with the nobility's loss of power. In art, this led to a shift towards more secular and Dutch-focused subject matter, seen with the Dutch still life, landscape, genre, and group portrait paintings. Rembrandt is perhaps the most famous of all Dutch artists from the Baroque period, and is responsible for a significant amount of influential portraiture. Two pieces stand out amongst his vast collection, the first of which is the Militia Company of District 2 under the command of Captain Franz Bandit Koch, more commonly known as the Night Watch due to its darkened appearance created by the accumulation of dirt and varnish over the years. The second is the portrait of a couple as Isaac and Rebecca, more commonly known as the Jewish Bride, a name given to the painting during the 19th century by Van der Hoop, an Amsterdam art collector who thought that the subject was a Jewish father hanging a necklace around his daughter's neck on the day of her wedding. The Night Watch is a massive group portrait that was commissioned around 1639 by the Cloveniers Dolen, a guild hall in Amsterdam that housed the Civic Guard Company of Arquebusiers, and was finished in 1642. As a Baroque painting, it shares many similarities in style with others from the period, with a strong tenebriism, illusionism, earthly tones, Dutch subject matter, and asymmetrical and diagonal composition. Still, Rembrandt's unique style shines through the many different aspects of his portrait. From the busy crowd, one can immediately notice how each of the individuals have character and are distinct from one another despite the fact that they are a military unit, something not seen before in Dutch group portraiture. The scene is fully brought to life with the various expressions, movements, and actions of each soldier in a way that is extremely realistic yet seemingly theatrical. In the center, three musketeers together form a complete visual of the process of loading, firing, and cleaning of a gun. But from this visual, the one who fires is the most important, as this reckless and unauthorized act draws a number of reactions out of the surrounding crowd, mostly of surprise or distress. In this regard, the painting resembles that of an Italian Historia, described by Renaissance author Leon Battista Alberti as a narrative type of painting meant to stimulate the mind and evoke emotion through a great variety of figure types and movements. However, Rembrandt intended for this narrative to serve a purpose more aligned with that of a portrait, as it establishes the character of the two leading members of the company, who stand unfazed by the firing of a gun directly behind them. The captain, dressed in black and wearing a red sash, continues to convey his commands to his lieutenant situated beside him, who listens intently with a focused expression. They are able to do so in spite of the noisiness of the scene, which features a barking dog, a drum being played, several men talking to each other, and of course a gun firing. This relays their discipline, fortitude, and stoicism, qualities that are paramount to strong leadership. In a deeper sense, this potentially reveals the great influence of neo-Stoicism in European art, and especially of that in the Netherlands during the 17th century. Because stoical traits were widely favored during the time, Rembrandt's particular depiction of the two members is one that would have been flattering to both the captain and his lieutenant. Aside from this, there are other elements that display Rembrandt's more symbolic style within the painting. Notably, there is a girl situated behind two of the gunners who glows with a golden luminescence. She is a figure that does not represent a real person, and instead serves as a symbol of the company itself, as hanging from her waistband is a white chicken that is reminiscent of the Clovenier symbol of a golden claw on a blue field. Additionally, the gateway from which the company marches through is not real either, and instead acts as a piece that unites the soldiers and establishes their strength, of which the Tuscan columns that support the gate are historically associated with. Moving on to the next portrait, the Jewish Bride, as given by its more recent title, is a portrait of a married couple posing as the biblical characters Isaac and Rebecca, which was painted in 1665, just 5 years before Rembrandt's death. In many ways, its style differs dramatically from that of the Night Watch, reflecting his artistic growth towards the end of his career. Of course, since it is not a group portrait, the painting uses shallow spacing in order to create a more intimate connection with the individuals. This is further established by the mostly plain background, where the couple stands in front of a barely visible arch and potted plant, all depicted in brown, muddy tones. Aside from the background, rich earthy tones are used to depict the colors of the couple's clothes, as well as their complexions. These general characteristics are in line with other Baroque portraiture during the period. However, it is the figures themselves that really exhibit Rembrandt's originality. The brushwork is much more rough and painterly, as opposed to the smooth and seamless brushwork from his earlier years, like that in the Night Watch. He even scratches into some areas of the painting with the butt end of his brush, further proof of his rough style. The use of thick impasto creates a painterly appearance that is most prominent throughout the fabric of their clothes, such as in the folds of the woman's skirt and sleeves, in which the foundations of paint are smudged and look to be chaotically brushed on. On the large right sleeve of the man, the pattern of Rembrandt's brushstrokes resembles that of a mosaic, which creates a layered texture with individual folds exposed by the golden light rays that seemingly reflect off the fabric. His thick application of paint is also visible on the hands and face of each of the two figures, whose skin tones consist of a variety of overlapping colors. Despite this, Rembrandt also applies the paint thinly in some areas, which give definition to small details. This can be seen with highlights of white and gold on the rings on the woman's fingers, the pearls wrapped around her neck and wrist, her earrings, and the decorative lining of her dress. In a time period where fine brushwork and extreme realism were favored, this was a bold change. However, it was not unlike that of some artists preceding him. It seems that Rembrandt had actually taken inspiration from the Venetian artist Titian, when his later work adopted a manner described by the artist Giorgio Vasari as pittura di macchia, or painting with splotches. Aside from these technical changes, Rembrandt's depiction of the subject matter itself also takes inspiration from previous art traditions. In the Old Testament story, King Abimelech caught the married couple Isaac and Rebekah in a moment of intimacy, uncovering the truth of their relationship. Instead of portraying Abimelech as stealthily witnessing their intimate moment in the background, as he did in an earlier sketch, he chose to place the viewers themselves in his perspective. This seems to be based upon a print by Sisto Battlecchio, which itself was modeled after a Raphael fresco in the Vatican. By choosing to exclude Abimelech, Rembrandt not only continues an esteemed tradition and pays respect to previous artists, but also provides an emphasis on the intimacy between the couple rather than on the biblical narrative as a whole. Just from these two art pieces, it is evident that Rembrandt was capable of using a broad range of artistic methods and techniques, some of which he learned from past artists and others that he created on his own. Either way, he created a style that was distinct to him, which was so strictly followed by his pupils that some of their works are even thought to be his own. He's an artist that has unequivocally earned his place among the masters of the Western art world. Like them, he greatly influenced the art that came after him, with prominent artists like Jean-Honoré Fragonard imitating his heavy brushwork, and Giovanni Battista Tiepolo incorporating some of the heads, facial expressions, and mannerisms of Rembrandt's work into his own Oriental portraiture. In the 18th century, his art continued to gain more popularity, so much so that he became one of the most sought-after artists, and the most popular of all the old masters in America. Naturally, many Impressionist and Post-Impressionist artists from the time, such as Edouard Monet, Edgar Degas, Odilon Redon, Theodore Rousseau, and Vincent van Gogh all took inspiration from the work of Rembrandt. Of these artists, Van Gogh was especially captivated by his work, including both of the pieces previously mentioned. In a letter describing their trip to the Rijksmuseum in 1885, Van Gogh's friend Anton Kersemakers captured his amazement in the face of the Jewish bride, where he posed the following question to his friend. Would you believe it, and I honestly mean what I say, I should be happy to give 10 years of my life if I could go on sitting here in front of this picture for a fortnight, with only a crust of dry bread for food. In regards to his technique, there's evidence that Rembrandt encouraged his fast brushwork, as he wrote that he was struck by how masters like Rembrandt were able to paint without having to look back. His fascination with the artist even manifested itself in the form of two art pieces directly attributed to him, titled The Half-Figure of an Angel after Rembrandt and The Raising of Lazarus after Rembrandt. Overall, the profound legacy of the Dutch master is unquestionable and is one that will undoubtedly inspire more artists to come. As the author Emile Michel claimed, logic cannot explain genius, more especially such a genius as that of Rembrandt, perhaps the most personal that has ever existed.